Hello and welcome to the latest edition of our more professional Ulster Rugby Roundup. I'm Gareth Hanna, and with me as always are Jonathan Bradley.
Hiya, how's it going?
And Adam McKendry.
Hello.
We're now officially on iTunes and SoundCloud, so very, very professional, and at least for anybody who sees our logo and doesn't actually listen to us, it looks like we know what we're doing, so that's a plus. The logo's fantastic, isn't it? I mean, just a little word of praise for, I don't even know who it was, it's really bad, isn't it? Designed it, but it's absolutely brilliant, and it makes us look really good.
A word of praise for an anonymous source. We really should have got the name there.
Behind the scenes.
Well done, design team.
Yes, well done, design team, and we apologise for letting you down with the actual content. Straight into the action then, after all the doom and gloom of the Zebra defeat with crushed Connacht and stung Wasps. I wrote that line down, but it's not really that good, is it? But look, how good was that at the weekend then?
Yeah, it was a really, really strange game because you mentioned Connacht. The two games, Connacht and Wasps, followed an almost identical pattern, right down to the point of the players that knocked the ball on to start the Connacht game did the same thing against Wasps. They had a game where they had an awful lot of the ball, an awful lot of the territory, still ended up losing at half time, and then roused themselves into action in the 50th minute with Stockdale and Piatai providing a bit of inspiration. It was eerie how similar it was to the week before.
It's amazing you say that because that's exactly how I felt just sort of starting the second half. I just sort of thought to myself, we're reliving the same game over again. It's still another rugby performance for me. I still was not wholly impressed. I mean, four points and denying Wasps anything is brilliant in the context of the pool, but for me it's another game where we didn't really hit our straps. And I know you've said in previous podcasts that that's good, that we're winning and we're not playing great, but I'm still not seeing much improvement, to be honest.
Well, I don't think the attack was there in terms of creating the chances that we've seen in the past. I think that was maybe something that was lost a wee bit, maybe the occasion, maybe the weather, I don't know. But in terms of really creating chances, there wasn't that many more sort of gilt-edged try-scoring opportunities. There was one where Stockdale burst through and him and John Cooney kind of collided. There was the Lele Afano one that got chalked off by the TMO quite rightly, but then Ulster still scored a couple of phases after that anyway. The first half, I mean, I thought the first half as a contest was really, really poor. I mean, there was a moment that for me, or a passage rather, that for me summed it up of Wasps tried to maul their way to a score. Ulster did really, really well to defend that, then knocked on from the scrum to give Wasps the scrum. Wasps got pinged for their prop binding run. Ulster got the penalty, kicked for the line out. Nathan Hughes stole the line out, and then Johnson knocked it on. It was a pass. It was like 5 things in a row where just nobody did anything right. And I think, well, there was a fair bit of negativity about the first half from some of our less frequent watchers, shall we say, from England, who weren't particularly impressed with the standard of the first half. But I suppose 50 minutes in, things started to pick up. At that stage, they're 9-3 down, and again, just that Charles Piatai, Jacob Stockdale double act. For the second try, I actually thought it was weird that they involved Stockdale, because to me it would have made more sense just to go inside and inside again to Stockdale, and then.
Yeah, but Ulster can't score a try without him.
I think.
Come on.
Yeah, it was almost like he had to give the scoring pass. Like Sean Reedy was screaming on the inside with his arm in the air, looking for it. But as Adam kind of alluded to, I think that a team firing on all cylinders, playing at a really high level, that top tier teams would have got 5 points out of that. I mean, there was a fair bit of talk about Wasps coming in and the struggles that they were having, an awful lot of talk about a wounded animal coming over here, but at the same time, the last time we saw Ulster in Europe, never mind a wounded animal, they were getting beat by a bloodied corpse of a Bordeaux team. So just the fact that they've started with a win first time in the last 3 seasons, I think they've kicked off on their right foot, but different kettle of fish this weekend, absolutely.
It is, but I feel like I'm going to be the really negative voice here, but it's just I don't see where Ulster have improved as the season have gone on. Their defence is has been brilliant over the last 2 games, and I'm not going to deny them that, because to keep Wasps out the couple of times they did was just brilliant work, and it goes back to that Connacht game where they kept them out right at the very end. But in attack, I just don't see where that cutting edge, that killer edge is. They can score tries on a whim with Stockdale and Piatai, who were again excellent, but it was that point between about the 50th and the 70th minute. I watched the game back twice, and I came away with the same thought both times. Ulster absolutely dominated from 50 to 70 minutes. They had all the territory, they had all the possession, they absolutely controlled that game, and they came away with all of, 10 points.
This weekend's the hardest game that they've got, and we said that all along. This isn't revisionist history or anything. We've been saying that coming into this pool, but after that there's nothing to fear here. La Rochelle have already beat Harlequins, also should beat Harlequins here as well, and there's every chance that by the time it rolls around to Wasps, going to Wasps, they're going to be out of it. So I think there's a real chance for a quarter-final here. I said that before, I think, and I only feel that more after Friday night, as much as you're saying that the attack wasn't quite there. I think there is a last 8 place to play for this team, definitely. I don't think that would be the case if they were in a lot of the other groups, but the way this one's shaken down, I think we could see them back in the quarterfinals.
Right. Well, a little bit then about Ian Henderson. And you just mentioned him very, very briefly there, but his debut as captain, and on the whole, not too bad, pretty good.
You know what, I think he did quite well. It was a little bit of an understated performance from Henderson on the night. I came away not thinking he was one of Ulster's better performers, and then whenever I watched it back, you see the dark arts of the breakdown, all the tackles that he made. So from a playing perspective, I thought he actually did quite well, and then as a captain, he was pretty good too. That was a really, really risky move he made by kicking to the corner, and it came off. But those are the ones that you can look back afterwards and say, yeah, it came off, it was a great call, or that didn't come off, why didn't you kick for the posts? Yeah. That's just one of those ones in the heat of the moment. You say to yourself, we're either on top or we're not, and he made that call to go for it, and fair play, it paid off. He was talking to the ref a bit during the game, maybe something he should be doing a little bit more, getting in the ref's ear and just trying to sway the game in Ulster's favour. But overall, it was a very commendable performance as captain.
I think with Henderson, obviously it was a brand new experience for him. Essentially, like, I asked him afterwards when the last time he captained the side was, and he kind of looked a bit puzzled, and then came out with, I think it must have been junior school at the BRA. So obviously it's been a while. Ulster have used a fair amount of different captains already, with Rory being out. The big call, obviously, if it comes off, you look like a genius. If at the time I was thinking take the points, because it had just been that kind of game that would have cut the deficit to 9-6, but it came off, so that's what you want. But one of the key points of the game for me was Ulster's maul defence. Those 2 big scores that they denied Wasps when it looked like they were going to rumble over, and that was massive for me. The idea of him leading by example, being the one at the forefront, because it lifted the crowd, it lifted the pack. He actually played very well as a unit. I mean, one of the mauls, Lele Fano, was in the middle. I don't really know what was happening there with him breaking that up, but Hendy was really to the fore in that as well, which I think was huge.
I wonder if Christian Lele Fano has ever been involved in a maul before in his life, let alone held it up at the very end.
Yeah, just new experiences all around for everyone. Hendy as captain, Lele Fano is the maul destroyer.
But if you don't mind, I'll pose a question to you, Johnny. If that call doesn't come off and Ulster then go on to lose, does that completely tarnish Henderson's performance as a captain? Not as a player, just as the captain.
Well, you're playing percentages at that point, so you're saying how many times does that pay off, and if it pays off more than 50% of the time, then it's a good call. But Henderson, for me, said something really interesting afterwards when I asked him about the call and when I asked him about the maul defence, and he said that when you're watching the game on TV, or if you're watching it like we're watching it, you maybe don't get the same feel for the swing of momentum on the field. And he talked about how he'd read the language of his fellow forwards, and he'd read the language of the Wasps forwards after they hadn't scored with their maul, and just felt like it was a really big moment to swing the game more in their favour. So in that way, obviously it looks brilliant when it comes off, but in what he was saying afterwards, talking us through the thought process of why he made that decision, and then it was obviously a pivotal moment in the game, especially when Willie Lurie's muffs the kick off and then also score again 70 seconds later. So yeah, for me, he's used his gut instinct, which is what you want out of a captain, and it's all the more encouraging, I suppose, that it paid off.
What about, and you have mentioned that it maybe is a little bit of a missed opportunity for Ulster to get a bonus point, but how significant could it be that they denied Wasps a bonus point?
I'm not going to see it as a missed opportunity for a bonus point for Ulster. We have no idea what would have happened if they had scored then. Maybe they would have got it, maybe they wouldn't have. But denying Wasps the bonus point is crucial in this pool. I go back to the year where we went 6 from 6. I can never remember what year it was. I can remember who was in our pool, the order we played them in, the scores, but I can't remember what year it was. But the first game against Leicester, Owen Williams put over a late penalty to give them the losing bonus point. And even coming right down to the last game, whenever it was us playing over in Welford Road, that bonus point was still the deciding factor in that if Wasps won, they would qualify as top of the pool, and if we didn't, we came second. So that's how important bonus points are in the Champions Cup. And to deny Wasps a bonus point puts us in not pole position in the pool, but it puts us in pole position in sort of that mini battle within the pool already. If we can get a losing bonus point in Coventry and they get nothing, or they don't get a win from that game, we've already won that little mini battle with them, and that's part of what will put you through or not. So I mean, the defence again stood up, was one of the reasons why they didn't get the bonus point. And again, it's going to be crucial this week if we can come away from La Rochelle with something. That is a brilliant result, not only in the terms of La Rochelle is a very tough place to go and get a result, but in terms of it's another point in the pool, it's a point on the road. And as Johnny said, we should be beating Harlequins away and we should be beating Wasps away, provided they're out by the end. So very, very important in terms of bonus points, no matter who you're denying them against or where you're picking them up.
Well, it's a mentality issue for me, more so than something that may have this huge effect on the pool, because the way Wasps are going, you don't see them getting out of this pool, and you can say then that denying them that point doesn't matter, but for me it is that issue of mindset, because it was the same thing against Connacht the week before, denying them that bonus point. It's not going to have any effect on the Pro 14 table from Ulster's perspective, but it's just having that mindset of every point matters, because we hear it all the time, we hear it every year, every point matters, we've learned our lesson, and then they go to Oyenad, don't get the bonus point in that crazy come from behind win, and that cost them a quarter-final place the next year, last season in Bordeaux, ending up without a losing bonus point, because you can't go into games and take nothing from them like Ulster have done in the past. You have to maximise your points. It's something we've seen Munster do seemingly forever in this competition. You have to win those swings in key points in matches. So whether or not it has an effect on the final standings in this pool is largely irrelevant to me. It's just the fact that it now seems like Ulster have twigged onto this idea that we've talked about for so long, that every point, especially in this small sample size of a competition, is just so important.
Yeah. Well, the guys spoke to Chris Henry after that game, and he gave his view on just why that lack of a bonus point for Wasps could be so important.
It's something that we talked about. It's about us trying to get as many points, but also not letting other teams get points. And so, look, we're just scraping for every point as possible. And I think if you get too far ahead and think about what ifs, there's no point. We just we've got a fantastic test for us. It's going to be one where it can really show us where we are and how far we've come against this tide at the weekend. And hopefully, as I said, if we can be thereabouts within the last 10 minutes away from home, then you never know what can happen. But we're all pretty realistic that it's going to take a huge effort from everyone.
All right then, so moving on to La Rochelle this weekend. Last week we talked about the form of Wasps going into that game and how they were bang out of form, but we can't really say the same this week. La Rochelle their only defeat in the last 6 games came to at the hands of Toulon away, I think. So, yeah, it's pretty formidable on the form sheet.
Yeah, it's slightly different, shall we put it politely, in terms of form compared to Wasps. One of the most eye-catching results of the weekend was obviously La Rochelle going away and getting the bonus point win against Harlequins in their first ever game in this competition. It's something that obviously it's not relevant for this weekend, but just something noteworthy about La Rochelle is that they travel very, very well, which is unusual for some of the top 14 teams, but they have this sort of fearsome home record, if you like, where they only lost once there last season, haven't lost there this season, and that was to Gloucester in the Challenge Cup semi, where once of this parish, Paddy McAllister, actually played in that game. So they do have this record, and they have this atmosphere here. You know, they open the ground hours and hours before kick-off. They've got like more season ticket holders than Ulster have, a 16,000 seater stadium. They make it really, really loud, a really sort of intimidating place to go and visit for away teams. And it's really, really paid off, because, you know, this is a team, they were unfortunate they got a red card in the semi-finals of the top 14, but they really were the pace setters throughout that league last year. They led the table, finished 7 points ahead of Clermont, who went on to win that final after they lost. And even with that red card, like in the semi, they just got beat by a late Toulon drop goal. Like, so yeah, this is a really, really quality outfit. They play in a different way. Like, they can play whatever way they want as well.
And I mean, whenever you consider, they won't be playing this week, but you consider that they've got Tawera Kerr-Barlow and Rene Ranger to add into an already quality stacked squad. It's amazing what they could achieve. They have a huge pack. They have really talented backs. Jeffrey Dumeru was outstanding against Harlequins. He was brilliant. And look, as much as personally I think Harlequins made La Rochelle look quite good, I still think La Rochelle were fantastic, and they're irresistible to watch. You know, it's not just the fact of they play good rugby. They play easy on the eye rugby. They play very entertaining rugby. Ryan Lamb or Brock James. Ryan Lamb, where has he come from to suddenly pop up in La Rochelle and start playing brilliant rugby again?
5 or 6 different places.
But whoever is at the pivot there for them is outstanding as well. You know, it's just everything seems to be clicking there. They just seem to have found that team mentality that works really well. And whenever you've got such a huge pack that somehow managed to be agile as well, Jone Kovu, he is an absolute monster. He plays in the second row, but he looks like 2 props rolled into one. And yet he's still able to be sprinting around the pitch at 70 minutes, getting from ruck to ruck. You know, defensively, they can be a little bit suspect. You know, Quinn's probably should have had a bonus point against them last week, but I mean that's about the only flaw I can find in them, to be honest. You know, and even when I say defensively they're suspect, I mean, you know, every so often they'll let a runner through and that'll be it. You know, if Ulster can try and make this a very broken field game. I'm no master tactician, so I don't know how you do that, but if Ulster can somehow just spread that defence about, get them scrambling a bit, they stand a chance. But look, this is going to be a huge, huge test. La Rochelle just don't lose at home. That's as much as I can say about that.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about defensively, but like only Cast allowed fewer tries last year, which actually surprised me, because they have this impression of having these high scoring games. They turn the ball over more than anybody else in the top 14, but also lead the league in meters, clean breaks, offloads. So they have this kind of this all black influence, if you like once upon a time Steve Hansen was there for a season, like 87, 88 I think it was, and then we've seen Victor Vito, top 14 player of the year. He's come in, Captain Eden as well, and you mentioned the 2 boys that thankfully I suppose aren't here yet for them, but they're like, if you were trying to create any niggle or any animosity here, it'd be really hard to do, because they're such a likeable team. Like the way that they've built since getting promotion in 2014, like they've got the longest serving president in France, which is obviously unusual when you look at all the sort of upheaval that we have. But we've seen Oyonnax being the prime example 2 years ago of how much change there is in France. You can have these teams that hit this high peak but then fall off straight away again because it's not built in a sort of sustainable way. Like the year that Ulster played Oyonnax in Europe after that fairy tale season where they qualified, Oyonnax got relegated that same year, but La Rochelle have just built steadily, as you mentioned, the sort of acquisition. And as well as getting these big All Blacks, they've got in other players from France as well. You mentioned Dumouriez, the centre, obviously Brock James, somebody everybody knows from Claremont. Rattez has come in as well. He's a really handy winger. The hooker from Toulon as well has come over. So they've built it in a really sort of sustainable and lasting way. And it's great to see. And obviously they play this brand of rugby. Like, they kicked the ball 18 times against Harlequins. The only other team that was in the teens was Ospreys, but they were 14-0 down before they touched the ball, so obviously they weren't kicking it away. Like, it's going to be a really, really entertaining game. It's going to be an interesting challenge for Ulster. They maybe play a wee bit like Scarlets do, but a Scarlets team that is more on form than the one that we saw here about a month ago. So it'll be interesting to see how they adapt. And you say about the size, just the sheer size of these boys. Like, Jono Gibbs there in the press conference made a wee joke about some of the weights listed in the official handbook, but if we take them all at face value, like Ulster's most sizable players, Rodney Ayew, La Rochelle have 4 players listed as bigger than Rodney Ayew. One of them plays lock, as you say, Kovu, and Vincent Pello in the top 14 semi-final last year played lock. Kovu came off the bench, so there was a point when they had those two boys in the second row at the same time, which is just insane. Like, one boy who is a prop and another who's built like a prop playing in the second row at the same time.
But that's the French system. The French don't play their locks like we play their locks. They play their locks as the big bruising ball carriers and the back row as the line-out jumpers, whereas we play the locks as the line-out jumpers and the back row as the big ball carriers. Now, the French obviously have big ball carriers in the back row as well. You know, they don't do small. For me, this comes down to Ulster's defence, and we've talked about how good it is, but they haven't faced a pack this big so far. You're going to have guys going into 2-man tackles again and again and again and again, and whenever that space is made, you know, it goes out to guys like Dumeru, it goes out to guys like Rattay, Murray Valu at fullback, who is a veteran operator out there. You know, guys like that can exploit that space that's created. Ulster's defence, as good as it has been, as brilliant as it has been over the last 2 games, is going to have to step up a level even again this week, or this could be a cricket score.
Well, I mean, there's more than one way to skin a cat, I suppose. You look at Harlequins as the example. Like, as you say, Harlequins should have had probably 3 more tries and got 3 themselves. So, in a way, as much as nobody seems to acknowledge this, like, if it does come down to it, a 4-try bonus point is as good as a losing bonus point. Mm-hmm. You know, we saw the Toulon game, the 60-22. Ulster took a point out of that game, which was more than anybody thought they were going to. And nobody is obviously going to admit that a point would be a good result, but it would be.
Yeah, well,
I was going to make the exact point that getting out of here. In fact, I think I did make the point earlier in the podcast that getting out of La Rochelle with a point, regardless of how many points they get, regardless of how many tries they score, a point in the group standings would be the perfect result in terms of the minimum that we have to get.
I just think it's regardless of how you get it as well. Like, it shouldn't matter if they get beat, 50-25, but score 4 tries as well. La Rochelle are a prime example of a team that maximised their match points. You look at what they did in the top 14 last year. They lost 6 games, but they took 5 losing bonus points. And we've seen it before. We mentioned Oyonnax, Bordeaux. Like, coming back with a bonus point is going to be key for me no matter what happens.
Sitting here right now, I would take, as you said, I would take a bonus point regardless of how it comes and walk away, and no injuries, and walk away perfectly happy.
Well, you have to win 1 away game at least, but I don't think this is the away game that you probably target. And we might see that in team selection. We don't know yet. Obviously, we're recording this on Tuesday, but there's been a hint that there may be some boys who have logged a good bit of minutes might not run out for this one. Obviously, Rory Best isn't going to make this one either. Although Rob Herring, I think, has had 2 great games in a row, so it kind of softens that blow a wee bit.
This is Wednesday, Johnny.
Do you know what? See, having a presser on a Wednesday is throwing my
Three's the
whole
whole
week
week.
off. Like, I'm gonna be running around on my day off, convinced that it's Wednesday, and not wondering.
As long as you don't miss your flight on Saturday.
Yeah, that'll be. Well, I think if we miss the flight on Saturday, it's gonna be because it's 8 o'clock in the morning more than anything else.
Well, Ulster head coach John O'Gibbs, of course, coached in Claremont, so he knows all about the atmosphere that his boys will experience in La Rochelle, and he told the press about it on Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah, it's a great stadium. It's I wouldn't say it's enormous, but it's very similar to here. The actual stands are very close to the ground. They've got a little bit of tin advertising hoardings that they smash that make a hell of a racket. They're there nice and early, so the warm up you're going to get a good feel for it, and it's not hostile. It's not a hostile crowd. They're just really passionate, and they're excited, and they've built something pretty good. Pretty consistently improving for the last few years from when they came up from Pro D2 to finishing, top of the standings last year in the round robin. So, I think the supporters are used to going along and watching winning rugby.
And in a brand new, probably, almost definitely one-off segment, it's Jonathan's Stat of the Week.
Well,
Please never sing again on this podcast.
That's happening every week now. I've just decided.
we had Robbie Dyack up at the press conference this week. Obviously, he's making his 200th cap, the third man for Ulster to do so after Roger Wilson and Andy Trimble. But we could see this 4 times in the next 4 games. Should Rory Best come back, play 2 games in a row, which I don't think is going to happen. If Cavey gets 4 games in a row, we think he's going to play this week. And Paul Marshall plays the next 2 games. We could see it where Ulster have 4 double centurions in a row.
This is bringing back bad memories of my permutations articles I had to do for the World Cup. There you go. Well, that sort of gives away our stats of the week for the next 3 weeks, because it's just going to be exactly the same as that. But there you go. Moving on then to our club section. A bit of a quieter week, but we'll rattle through it here anyway. And it's now 5 from 5, I think, for the boys here, and our game of the week tips after Ballynahinch beat Bangor fairly comfortably, 31-7 in last weekend's Senior Cup. And I think Adam has the results. He's looking confused at me there. I think, isn't that right?
I have Ballynahinch down winning 33-7.
Was I thought it was 31? We'll have to look it up.
Yeah, but anyway, the other Senior Cup results
it was
saw
33.
Malone beat Dungannon 32-24, City of Armagh beat Banbridge 16-6, and Ballymena were 39-27 winners over Omagh. The semi-final draw was made yesterday, that's Tuesday. These ties are to be played on November the 18th. Ballymena are hosting Ballynahinch, and Malone are travelling to City of Armagh.
And Johnny's not getting away with that confusion either. We both looked at him for the definitive answer, and he just gave a blank look. So, no, you're not getting away with that one either. What about this weekend's game of the week then? Junior Cup action?
Yeah, we're into the Junior Cup. It's a really strange year in the Junior Cup because we have these 4 second-string senior sides in action this week against the 4 junior teams. But the junior teams that have been in form this year have all kind of gone out already. Drumore are out, they got beat by Clogher Valley. Estonians have already been put out by Hinch 2s. Carrick have been knocked out by Enniskillen. So it seems like a really open competition. Whereas in the past years, we've had the sort of cream really rising to the top. Last year, Hinch 2s beat Omagh. The year before, Bangor and Estonians were in the final. The year before that, Estonians Omagh. So these are all teams that had experience of senior rugby in the not too distant future or past at the time. So it's going to be a different feel of the competition this year, I think. For a game of the week, we've gone for City of Armagh 2s playing Coleraine. Coleraine absolutely hammered Clogher Valley to get here, but themselves haven't been really playing that well in the league. And these 2 teams actually played each other at the weekend with City of Armagh winning 20-7, but I think Richard Boyd up at Coleraine expects to have a bit of a stronger team out this week, so it'll be interesting to see what changes. But I think we're probably gonna tip City of Armagh to win again.
Yeah, we'll go for that. I mean, whenever you've got that senior influence in your team, you're usually already at that extra step. So yeah, we'll go for City of Armagh too.
I think it's interesting times at the City of Armagh, I think, as well. If you look at the whole club, obviously they won the Senior League, or Sony Premiership, last year. First time they won that. As we say, going great guns in the Senior Cup as well. Lost to Blackrock there in the All-Ireland League, but other than that, it's been going well for them there too. So just caught up with Ollie Birch there during the week to talk to him about how things are going down at the Palace grounds.
You love stealing my links now, don't you?
Yeah, it's going reasonably well. You know, it's a whole new experience with being in a different league in the All Ireland, and like a lot of us have never experienced it before. So we've hit the ground running, and the boys are happy enough.
You were obviously up against a team that was going very well themselves at the weekend, but you managed to come through that. You can take a fair bit of confidence in that, especially being able to sort of get back on the horse after having that first slip up of the season.
Yeah, no, definitely. Banbridge obviously had a few players missing with the A game, but they have a great squad, and I think we put a lot of emphasis on our defence from the week before, because we were just lacking a lot of physicality, and that, I think that was our main focus, and it really showed at the weekend to get a result against a top side.
And what about Willie Falloon and the impact that he's making this year?
Yeah, Willie has a lot of respect from the players. He's a local lad, and he's got a lot of experience as a player. I think he's new to the coaching role at that level, but he's fitting in really well, and the boys really enjoy training and playing under him.
And we're here at the Senior Cup draw. Obviously, you had a little bit of taste for silverware last year. What would it mean if you could get back to the final? Into the final this time?
Yeah, no, it'd be massive for the club, because to build on last year's success would be great, and just it's one thing that we've really put an emphasis on this year. It'd be great to win it. Like there's 3 other great teams in it, so we'll have to get to the final first. So I'll take it from there, but it's a massive incentive to get to the final and hopefully get a result.
Interesting test at the semi-final coming up as well now.
Yeah, like Malone again are a really good side. They're going really well in the All Ireland, so it'll be interesting to see. It'll be another meeting between them with the All Ireland as well. So it'll depend how that goes. Neither team mightn't want to give a lot away, but it'll be good now, and home advantage will hopefully count for a lot in the day.
And we have a few listener questions then this week. Again, we've picked out 3 or 4 of our favourites, and the first couple are about Marcel. I never like saying his second name. What was it again? Coetzee. I'll just call him Marcel, I think. So, first one is from Matthew McNabb, and he asks, should Ulster look to sign a replacement or an injury joker, as I put it, which I initially thought was him just being really offensive towards Marcel. And off the forums, Ulster number 9 asks, what do we think of Ulster sticking by Marcel during his injury problems? So what do we think?
Yeah, I'll take the first half of that. Just in terms of bringing in an injury joker, asked Les in the post-match about it after they'd broken about Marcel's injury, and he seemed to hint that no, they weren't going to look at somebody. If I could just... He wasn't there, he wasn't going to elaborate on why, but maybe just a few of my own thoughts about why it could be. I suppose first and foremost, what people I think have maybe overlooked is the fact that we already have, not an injury joker, but we already have somebody who's come in short notice here in Christian Lealiafano, and as much as he's here for the rugby experience and trying to get minutes under his belt, he's not here for free. So this is a boy who's come in outside of what was originally thought to be the playing budget. He's a frontline international player. He's going to be commanding a sizable enough salary for his time here, and there's a finite amount of money that can be spent on these players outside your original budget. And I would guess that there's probably an opinion of, for the money that's there, they're better off going with what they have. This is something we saw last year as well, when there was talk about a medical joker coming in for Marcel around February time. And without naming any of the names, some of the players that were mooted as possibilities were not better than Roger Wilson, and that's why you saw Roger Wilson come back into favour a lot towards the end of last season. They really thought they were better off going with what they had for the money that was available. And I would guess that that's probably going to be the case again. The only interesting thing about whether it's going to be revisited or not was in his answer, Les mentioned, we have Sean Dazel, but we can't run him into the ground. Maybe it's a little hint of a reminder there that maybe they will have to revisit this in the future rather than flog the boys that they have there. But we'll wait and see.
Sticking by him, I suppose you've left me with the second part of the question, which is probably the harder part of the question.
Wouldn't be like me.
No, wouldn't be like you at all. Sticking by him, it is a really tough one because he has played all of 5 games for Ulster, and whenever you've got someone in commanding that wage, and he's not actually playing or contributing anything to the on-field business, it's very hard to justify him sticking around. But the thing is, Ulster gave him a 3-year deal. You always run the risk with players with injury. No player goes out there and is guaranteed to walk off the field healthy and 100%. So it's very hard to then turn around and say, sorry mate, you're too injured for us. We're going to buy you out. And the thing is, whenever he is at his best, he is our best back row by some distance, and he will be a huge asset. The only problem is, will we ever actually get to see that? For Ulster, they're going to stick by him. I'm maybe not quite answering the question, but Ulster are going to stick by him, and I think that's all they really can do, to be honest. To cut ties with him would be very harsh, in my opinion.
Given the risks that all these players take with their health and their future health and their ability to have their bodies in some sort of repairable state by the time they finish their careers, I think you're probably on very dicey ground if you start looking at saying that you're not going to honour contracts that you've handed out, and especially, even just whether an insurance, I'm no insurance law expert, but whether companies would even pay out on that kind of thing when you get injured in the course of action, I suppose. Both at Sharks and here, I just think I don't think it would really be an option for Ulster, especially in terms of how they're viewed by other prospective signings as well. You have to look at it in that way as well, just above the sort of personal aspect of Marcel too.
And there is a very personal aspect to it. I think you just have to feel very, very sorry for him. It's been a really tough time for him since he joined. But
absolutely. There was somebody not that long ago I heard saying, he'll feel just as bad about this as we do, and it's like, absolutely not. He will feel a million times worse.
I know.
And I don't think we should. I don't think that should be forgotten either.
Yeah, dangerous game. That's why I play golf. Nowhere near the same injuries there on the fairways, or the rough most of the time. But moving on to our second question, then Ian Frizzell asked, should Ulster go 6-2 on the bench?
When this question was first posed to me, I thought long and hard about it because I was really intrigued by it. I always think it's a big risk when you go 6-2 on the bench because, actually, like we've just been saying, you can't guarantee 3 backs aren't going to get injured sometime in the game. Then you're forced to stick a flanker on the wing or something like that, a la Peter O'Mahony. I suppose it would make some sense going to La Rochelle with their huge pack to try and combat that as much as possible. But then you've got to remember that the backs are just as dangerous once the forwards make those holes. So for me, no. I think you just go with a normal bench.
I think the only way you can do it is, and this is actually a possibility, if Cooney's on the bench and you have him cover 9 and 10 and then somebody to cover the outside backs. But I just think with the players that Ulster have at their disposal, because what would you be talking about really, bringing Clive Ross or Matty Ray onto the bench to sit with whichever one of that quartet of neither Henry's back is going to be left out of the loose forward trio. So I don't see them doing it. I can see the logic behind it, but for me it's the kind of thing you can only really do if you have somebody that can play 9 and 10 or 10 and back 3.
Well, I think that's as close to a straight answer as we're ever going to get to any of these questions. Ryan Jennings there in our last one asks about a player who I don't think we've discussed all that much, maybe unfairly. How important, he asks, is Stuart McCluskey?
Stu's been really important this season, and I think it's no coincidence that we lost in Zebra and he didn't play. Now, I don't think he's the sole reason why we lost. That would be rather harsh on the selectors. But look, he's so good at just providing that go forward ball. I don't want to say skill set because he can do a lot, but what he's used most for is that crash ball up the middle, and he's always going to make you yards. He's always going to suck in at least 2 players to make that tackle, and that can open up the space for guys like Piatow and Stockdale out wide and Ludick and guys like them. So, I mean, whenever you have someone like McCluskey in midfield who can make that initial surge, can just create that little bit of space, can give you the go forward ball straight off first phase, it's so important just to set up the attacks from there. And I think he's really started the season well, so that he's very important. He's really made that 12 shirt his own so far.
Like, Ryan actually answered his own question on Twitter by saying very, 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 which is
That's right, I saw that.
100% accurate. For me, a few of the interesting things about Stu this season is the fact that he actually sort of ended last year out of form, and by his own admission, he wasn't really at the levels that we'd seen him at before last year. And then he came in this season. I actually had a good long chat with him about it not that long ago, where he was just talking about how funny form is, because he couldn't work out why he wasn't. It's not that he was playing terribly, but just wasn't at the level that he knew he could be at last season, and then comes in this season and all of a sudden he's not doing anything different. Nothing's changed for him. He's just playing really, really well. And for me, it's interesting that the original plan for that Dragons game was that Cooney, Leali'ifano and McCluskey wouldn't play together, because, as you say, they want to keep that unit together as much as possible, because he really is the 12. For me, it's almost not how much he's important for Ulster at the minute. For me, with the injuries that Ireland have in the centre, and the way that we saw Henshaw play at 13 on Saturday against Montpellier, he should be right there for me, along with Scannell at Munster as the form 12 in Ireland looking to November. Now, it might not happen, because ever since winning his first cap, like, I remember being in Twickenham for that and like asking the question of Joe Smith of how he thought Stu got on, because that's kind of what you're there for from a Belfast Telegraph perspective in these situations, to get a good quote about the Ulster players. And Joe Schmidt really wasn't very effusive about McCluskey's performance that day. I thought he played alright, but clearly Schmidt had seen something in that game. So if you look at Alton Delan and Josh van der Flair, who won their first caps that same day, they become integral parts of the squad, whereas Stu, like the last big meetup they had, as far as I'm aware anyway, he wasn't included in that until very late on. Like, he came down late, and I think that was after Aki and Tyler Blendenall had already been in the camp. He came down on the Sunday night, I think. So it'll be interesting for me in November to see if Joe Schmidt rewards his form any and brings him more into the fold.
Just to wrap up listeners' questions for this week, we did have a question a while back of when Les Kiss's contract is up. We have now got the answer to that. It is up at the end of next season, the 2018-19 season. So for all of you who are asking, there's your answer.
There you go. Very good.
You'd almost think the team's gone badly with these questions.
I know.
We've actually contributed some real knowledge there and actual information. That's a first. Well, we'll mention our competition.
I think we shall. I think we will. You know, I think so.
We have. I can't even remember what it is. Johnny, you go for it.
We've got I think we'll call it a golf towel. I'm not really sure what it is.
Oh, really?
An Ulster golf towel signed by Ian Henderson, who, as he was captain the last time, we'll say signed by Ulster captain Ian Henderson.
Fantastic. Why not?
And we're going to post this up. So this is Wednesday. So we're going to post this up Thursday evening, Friday on our Facebook page, the Beltel Sport page. So if you go to that, like and share the post, then we'll just pick somebody to give a wee signed piece of merchandise to by Hendy.
Yeah, lovely. Well, thank you very much for joining us and listening to our ramblings from a very windy Kingspan Stadium. I don't know whether these are sort of the the final breaths of Storm Ophelia, or the first gusts of Storm Brian, I think they're calling the one this weekend, aren't they? But
Yeah, well, Storm Brian better not hit because we're flying into Dublin on Saturday. So.
yeah, but we're actually our sheets were blowing all over the place here, and Adam had to set his wallet down to keep it it down because his wallet's the heaviest. So I think that says it all about freelance wages, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I have my wallet, my phone, my iPad, everything is on the table trying to make sure nothing flies away.
But thank you very much for joining us, and from Jonathan Bradley.
Cheers, thanks very
I was
much.
going to call you Jonathan Henry. This guy I went to uni with. Your name? What is it about your name?
Will you ever get his name right?
No. From Adam McKendry
See you in La Rochelle, guys.
and Gareth Hanna. Thank you and good night.